All right. It's been a while since I've done one of these. May 30th, to be exact, as far as I can tell. But I wanted to give sort of an update on my COVID, coronavirus, whatever, escapades. Again, I have not been tested. Uh, the time when I would have shown positive would have been prior to the panic, prior to lockdowns, well prior to any availability of tests in this area. In fact, still around the last time I checked, which was, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago, you still had to go through so many hoops to get a test. And at that point, I'm like, well, there's not really any reason unless all my hypotheses are wrong. And in that, if my hypotheses are wrong, if I didn't catch this back in January when it seems most likely overall, because there's been one thread of symptoms that have gone for that entire period, then, well, the chance of me being positive is about the chance of anyone being positive. All the symptoms that I've gotten that have aligned with it seem to have built on this initial set, which was a very light upper respiratory issue, a little bit of coughing, a little bit of sneezing, not much sneezing, a sore throat, a little bit of a dry cough. This is what it started with. The first couple times that it came about, this is what it was. And yeah, that's what I mean. First couple times, it was hitting every 2 weeks, or every other week, basically. And for the first while, it really wasn't a big deal at all. And then after a couple months, there started being some breathing problems that were significant, not just this dry little raspy cough that, I've never had anything like that, but could have written that off to, allergies or even my smoking for certain, although it's never hit like that. It was always a deep down cough that came from a cold with the smoking. I never got any kind of pneumonia-like, and I've had pneumonia before, respiratory problems, and great. Yeah, I'm trying to think while there's motion downstairs. Very difficult for me to deal with any people around, even ones that are part of my life. And it didn't have much impact on me overall. The only thing that really sucked was when the lockdown went in place, I couldn't go dancing anymore. But I had been kind of holding off because of the illness when I thought, when I first thought, hey, I might have this, was, let's see, probably in February. I actually skipped at least one day there. So chances are, actually, I was there when I was infectious. If my understanding of the timeline is right. But what's interesting here is that from that initial point where I think I caught it and was sick, probably with a very, very mild case, I have been getting regular reoccurrences, and they've been getting worse, and new symptoms have been showing up. So I don't know what exactly I was able to identify back in the last one, and I'm not going to go back and listen to myself. But one of the interesting symptoms that I haven't seen anywhere was an increase in my sense of smell. Right? There's a decrease in the sense of smell that's associated with it, and taste. It hasn't touched my taste at all. I had a sense of smell increase that was tremendous for a little while, and sometimes it seems like it's coming back a little bit, but not very much. My cardiovascular has deteriorated significantly to the point where today, well, yeah. Today, for example, and this is not the first time this has been happening for months, I got winded going uphill on my way to shopping. I've had shopping days where I had to lie down, dragging my cart up. It's a steep hill. It's not something, that I don't know that many people my age, many who aren't exceedingly physical, and I'm not exceedingly physical, would have an easy time with. I don't have an easy time with it. I can do it. But yeah, the strain was so heavy that it actually, I had to lie down a couple of times on the way up. Now, there's an interesting correspondence with those times I had to lie down. They were the times that I did not drink mocha on the way back. Some of them were water, one was lemonade. As long as I've been drinking coffee products, and honestly coffee and chocolate product on the way back, that's been good. And that's kind of interesting because at some point fairly early in this, I started craving chocolate, and it would make my my fog, what I call the corona fog or the COVID fog, go away. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would just be so confused for a while. I would take a little bit of chocolate and my brain would clear very quickly. It would take 10 minutes or so. Coffee, similar effect. Well, today what happened, which is very odd, was I was having, I had such a difficult time that we didn't go shopping. We blew that off. That's something I hate to do because I'm like, well, it could be worse. But the last couple of days have been very hot, and it was supposed to get up to 95. It got up around 100 yesterday. And I haven't been feeling well for the last couple of days, but I haven't been drinking any coffee, and I'm out of chocolate. And it's kind of funny because the one thing that kind of seems to clear the fog, the brain fog, has been that. I hadn't noticed with the respiratory, but today I came home, made myself a couple cups of coffee and drank them, and I felt fine. And here's another thing. New symptom. Under my arm here. No marks, no indications. I was having a pain as though somebody had slammed it with a hard punch or like hit it with a hammer or something. No bruises, nothing. I hadn't been doing any kind of heavy work. I hadn't done any pull-ups or anything like that that might have strained it. It was also only one arm, not both arms, so it wasn't like, something I had done with a ladder recently, I don't think. That's possible, actually. That was the thing I forgot about, was the ladder. I did have to haul the ladder up, and that took some muscle work. I had this very strange, it didn't feel like I had overexerted or something. It felt like somebody had slugged me there. I noticed just a couple hours ago that too had cleared up. Now that was for a couple of days, 2 to 3 days. That's been hurting like that, and I couldn't explain it at all. Somebody pointed out that might be a sign of blood clot. Actually, everything kind of fits in with blood clot, and I'm also, told that maybe the caffeine and the chocolate both impact that by making the blood flow a little easier, and that's kind of interesting. I'm willing to self-medicate with chocolate and coffee if that's what it takes. I may have to switch to iced coffee on days like today, but I guess one of the things is, and again, I'm working with a probability in my mind of 98% that I have this. That's about where I sit. 98% is a nice number. I like that. I don't know exactly, but it has to do with the alignment of symptoms and the fact that I detect symptoms, and then the studies start showing them. There are some things that are unexplainable. The increased sense of smell. That's a weird alignment. I kind of say, hey, if it's tinkering with your sense of smell and breaking it, why can't it make it better? And we're not talking about like, well, my nose was clear or something. No, it was ridiculous sense of smell. Like I could smell electric engines from, a half mile away. Like it was just really crazy shit. I could smell poop, like dried poop, and I couldn't tell where it was, but I could tell the direction, but like, outside my line of sight. Just really, really weird. Like a dog took a shit somewhere and it dried in the sun a little bit. Just really weird things that I was being able to detect and discern that, would normally just be sort of, I guess, the panoply of smell. I was able to weed out threads and see them better. See seems like the term because I could tell direction and stuff that is not always very obvious from sense of smell. Anyway, there was another. Okay, so the other thing that is not being reported that's kind of a big deal is this continuing effect. Now, people have reported continuing effects. They're people who had bad effects that have continued. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I had almost nothing, and that almost nothing recurred a couple of times, and slowly worse and worse things are happening. My initial assumption was the virus is raging inside me, or my wife and I are passing it back and forth. Neither of those seem to follow the current research. Now, I don't know. I would assume that they would be able to tell if the virus is raging inside you through blood tests and stuff, something I'm not able to take. But, for let's call it religious reasons, but it's really mystical reasons. And one of the reasons why doctors are of no use to me, because if they can't have my blood, they can't tell me what's wrong with me. But yeah, if it's mutating that fast, the effects on the population would have shown by now. And if it's staying in the body and doing that kind of damage, people in the hospital would be showing it, but they're releasing people with these little swab tests and saying, yeah, go sit in your home for 14 days and we'll test you again, and yep, you're good. That wouldn't have worked as far as I can tell if it's raging inside me, but you'd think they would find it in the people in the hospitals, in their blood tests, in their samples, that they would see that there's some kind of impact that's still going on inside them. The other theory for this is some kind of cyclostorm or something like that, where your immune system is attacking yourself. But why would that just keep happening? That's kind of weird too. I can understand an enhanced immune response while the virus is there, but why would it just keep going on? And why would that affect blood clotting, which seems to be the things that are increasing, seem to have to do with that cardiovascular and the blood clot situation. Now, blood clots under oxygen. Is there some chance that, something's changing to further oxygenate my blood? It's not showing up as anything silly. I've got a little oxygen meter that's showing 98 all the time. I hold my breath, it's 98. I feel dizzy. Well, it starts out in the 80s and then jumps up to 98 eventually. It's like it might take a minute to get there, but it always gets to 98 wherever it goes. Pretty happy with my heart rate, actually, given everything. I'm not the model of health. My wife's is like up there, like with a chipmunk or something. It's up above 100. But mine is usually between like 65 and 80, which feels pretty good for me. When I do heavy work, though, it goes up tremendously, like up and above 100 at least, sometimes around 120. But yeah, and it seems to track that well. I don't know about the oxygen. I don't know if it's just giving me bullshit readings. It's out of China and it's cheap, and I don't know. But anyway, the um, these impacts seem to be blood-borne. They seem to be some of them have impacted other organ systems. So I've had some issues with my bowels, a little bit of blood in my stool, stuff like that. But then that goes away, and I think there's been some issues with my liver being able to process all the tea I had, so I can almost not drink tea anymore, which is deadly for me because I mean, not literally. It's horrible though. I mean, I'm so used to just guzzling tea. I probably drink a gallon of tea a day under normal circumstances, and I can't drink that much coffee. But I don't need to. So I've been drinking a whole lot more water, which is probably for the best. And, you know, just the alignment of all the different symptoms that I've been getting is just so weird. And then some of them go away. Like I was getting incredibly dry eyes for a while in there. Dry, itchy eyes. That's one of them. That went away, you know. But this little cough has been on and off, consistent throughout. The breathing problems, those are, you know, those were when I started worrying and thinking I had this. The fog was right away, but it's gotten worse. And then it started adding headaches to it. Muscle aches, usually pretty limited. This thing was just so weird. I don't know, the difficulty breathing. So that one came to me, and it hasn't gone away. My wife's just started getting it. And we're talking about, this is 6 months in, you know, that these impacts are still accruing. Not necessarily all constantly on the decline either. So here's the other thing. The way the reporting goes, it sounds like people just have trouble. Like they can't go out for a long walk, you know, ever. That's not the case with me. With me, it's like every couple weeks I get hit with it for a few days of real problem. And then it's better. Maybe not 100% better, but better enough that I can't tell whether I've just gotten fat and out of shape worse than I was, or if it's still, you know, the underlying reality of my symptoms. And it's funny because sometimes when I heavy exercise, sometimes I feel like shit for days afterwards. The one exception to that, in general, there may be exceptions that happened periodically, but there was a brief period of a few weeks where they took the lockdown away here. Well, the lockdown went away, the harsh lockdown, and they opened up the bar where I go dancing. And I went there for a few weeks, and I paid no after effects for it. In fact, it was a shorter night, so I was getting longer night's sleep the next day or something. So that may have been an impact of it, but I wasn't even feeling hungover the way I used to, even though I was drinking about the same amount of alcohol in a shorter period of time. And I'm wondering if the alcohol actually is similar to the coffee and the chocolate having this other effect. Because when I dance pretty damn hard. And yes, it wasn't, you know, for, I don't know what it normally goes for, 4 to 5 hours. Instead, it was ranging more like, close to that. More like 3 to 4 hours. But they moved it earlier so that they could meet the quarantine. They shut down the bars earlier. Now that doesn't make any damn sense to me, because what it meant is everybody is there, you know, in a particular smaller window of time, but there was also an amount of people limit there. Yeah, I'm not finding the words. The brain doesn't work as well anymore under this shit. Um, but yeah, it's been with this really weird situation where there are things that just don't make sense to me, and you know, I mean, I'm not going to go talk to a doctor because the doctor wants to suck my blood and won't tell me shit unless they can. And so, you know, I'm limited to kind of what I can find online and whatever. And if I feel like my life is tremendously in danger, then I maybe change what my strategies are for coping with it. You know, I allowed my rules to be bent once before. They tried to kill me in the hospital. They gave me, I think, penicillin, made my head twice as big, and then, you know, it was really, really ugly what they had to do from there. But yeah, I think they thought I was going in for like painkillers. I don't care about fucking painkillers. I just want to stop, you know. I wanted to be able to actually have an excuse as to why I was missing days of work more than anything else. But yeah, luckily with this, I don't have to go anywhere. You know, the only thing I have to do is shopping, which I doubt that there's any contagion for me anymore. I wanted to get tested before I went dancing, but it was becoming absolutely clear that even though things were not as difficult to get tests anymore, it was hard enough and there would be enough delay that I would just not know. And not knowing means screw it. I'm going to go with my best understanding, which is that I had this months ago and either the science is all wrong or, I mean, one way or another, the science is not capturing the experiences that I've had, right? Which may mean it's not COVID at all. If it's not, I don't know what it is, and you know, something terrible's happening. Maybe twisting my ankle did it. You know, I don't know. But yeah, it's the only thing that aligns well with it. Like, we got rid of whatever mold we could find. It's hot weather now. The mold shouldn't be affecting us if it existed. And I punted it down. There's just, you know, there's no environmental cause that I can think of. And the changes of the symptoms and their alignment with the COVID symptoms, it's just made it so that, yeah, you know, I feel pretty confident. My wife is a lot less confident in it. She still seems to think that, you know, we're not immune or infected. Those are the two options to me. We're either immune or infected still. You know, it's one or the other. And it ain't going to make a difference either way. And, you know, I don't know. But anyway, that's where I'm sitting right now. I was worried enough about the shopping today that I was worried last night that I wouldn't, you know, make it back if I tried. I was worried enough by being so out of breath walking up the hill. But then after the coffee, I felt fine. Now it's starting to decrease a little bit, you know. Maybe I need more coffee. I can't drink that much coffee. And I don't have chocolate because I didn't go shopping. But yeah, and I don't have much alcohol either. Haven't since I moved to this house. I don't know where the liquor store is that's nearby. There used to be one. Can't find it anymore. But yeah, I guess most of what I'd want to say is that we really don't know shit about this, and you can't count on what they're telling you. And this is not in some conspiracy theory sort of way. This is in this virus is so little understood. There are things that maybe they do know, but I think there are big things that they're missing. And this periodic recurrence thing, that has not been reported. The way it's been reported is like only people. So I've seen evidence online of people who did not have it bad, who face problems. I've seen scientific papers on the lung scarring and heart damage from people who were and were not hospitalized, and they're all up there, you know. What I have not seen is anything that explains this sort of recurring cycle. And it may be an odd thing. It may not be COVID again. I mean, my assumption is it is, because the symptoms do align, but, you know, maybe it's just some crapshoot that my wife and I both caught. You know, she's not going to catch my heart problems from, you know, smoking and getting fatter and stuff like that. She's not in my smoking range very much. She lives mainly down the basement. You know, we live our separate lives for the most part. So secondhand smoke, probably not so much. If it was an environmental issue like mold, yeah, maybe. But again, the evidence shows against that. And the weird kind of symptoms and the moving around of them and everything, that is just so alien. Viruses are alien to begin with, but yeah, until, you know, I would expect that we're not going to have any idea what the impacts of this thing are, the long-term impacts on people, on quality of life and everything, for years to come. You know, Fauci made a statement that this was the trickiest thing he had faced. This was worse than HIV in terms of trying to understand what it did. Now, obviously, unlike HIV and, you know, they think they're going to be able to get a vaccine for this. They didn't think that with HIV. They didn't have, I guess, you know, they haven't had the same kind of successes they had with this very quickly. So, maybe, you know, but whatever I'm getting hit with, I apparently probably have antibodies running around in me that are fighting this thing one way or another. So, you know, that virus, that might cause one of these cyclostorms. It might send if you're sent with a vaccine, you might be thrown into this condition without getting ill. So let's damn hope that they carefully test this. And the amount of time that they went from phase 2 to from phase 1 to phase 3, through the phase 2 trials, where they'd be able to tell the safety thing, that's not enough time to have shown the effects that I saw. It took longer to develop those effects than that entire phase 2 went. So there you have that as well. It could be the cure for this is worse than you know, wearing a mask and trying to live a different kind of life than we've lived before. Much as I hate it, because yeah, it doesn't impact me much, but the one thing it impacts me is sort of the thing that gives me the most, I don't know, I wouldn't say joy, but it gives me the most release, you know, in life.